Well, the Shadow Assistant Treasurer joins us now from Canberra to discuss this. Andrew Lee, welcome to The Drum.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Now, we've got a... let me first go to the issue of the financial advice laws, because we've got a situation where the government is actually, as your Shadow Treasurer put it earlier today, capitulating on the issue of commissions. Can you tell us whether Labor will now back those financial laws through the Parliament?
Well, Eleanor, we're certainly not inclined to back things that aren't in the best interest of consumers, and I think the best way of understanding this pretty technical area of policy is to look at who's on which side. The bankers are pushing for them, Council of the Ageing, National Seniors and Choice are against them. This is a reform that would be good for bankers and bad for pensioners, and after a generation of rising inequality, I think that's the last sort of thing Australia needs.
So will Labor be voting it down?
Well, we're not going to support the taking away of a best interests duty. We're not going to support measures which don't see customers being able to be told what they're being provided. This is an instance in which there's a huge disparity in the information people have. And just as when you go to see your doctor or your lawyer, you want to know that they're acting in your best interests. I think that's not unreasonable to expect when you go to see a financial planner. And I do sometimes wonder where Joe Hockey comes from on these sorts of things, whether he actually has ever put himself in the shoes of a vulnerable pensioner who doesn't have the same sort of financial knowledge that he has. The old golden rule that you should treat others as you expect yourself to be treated doesn't seem to be the principle on which this government makes decisions.
Well, let's go now to this issue of the banking negotiations. The Trade Minister says it is a massive union beat-up. Your response?
Well, the Four Pillars policy's been in place for a quarter of a century now, going back to 1990, and it essentially says that the four big banks, Commonwealth, Westpac, NAB and ANZ, aren't allowed to merge. That's served us extraordinarily well. When the greatest world crisis since the Great Depression hit, our banks came through unscathed, and you can't say that for many developed countries around the world. Labor built the Four Pillars policy and we'll be standing by it, and we would like some reassurance from the government that while they're ostensibly carrying out a financial systems inquiry, they're not through the back door trying to dismantle a fundamental plank of that policy.
Well, as Lyndall pointed out, the Minister has said, look, yes, I agree we have a world-class banking system. Why would I do anything to jeopardise that?
Yes, but I would like to see an assurance from the Minister that the Four Pillars policy stays and that they're not negotiating away the Four Pillars policy because, like Nathan, I believe in competition in the banking sector, and I don't think that's well served by allowing the Big Four to merge. That gives us greater market concentration at a time when already our Big Four banks have significant market shares. Now,
when Labor was in government, you were in fact conducting these negotiations and you seem to be perfectly happy about it. Why have you suddenly got an issue now that the coalition's in government?
I don't want to comment on the WikiLeaks documents, but certainly what we're talking about is negotiations being carried out under the coalition, which are putting the Four Pillars policy on the chopping block. Labor wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have traded away the Four Pillars policy. We believe it's fundamentally good for consumers to maintain that separation between Australia's biggest four banks.
Well, the Minister is saying that it's a beat-up to say that they're trading away the Four Pillars policy, and he's saying that he simply wants to open up the system to greater competition. Is there really a problem with that?
I'm all for banking competition, Eleanor, and if that's what the government is doing, then that's fine. But I'd like a reassurance that they're not going in the opposite direction, because so often with this government, you see them backing the big end of town over the little guy. We've seen that in a plethora of decisions in the budget, giving the $50,000 parental leave schemes to millionaires while taking away unemployment benefits from 20-somethings in high unemployment areas. And I worry that in an area like this, this is a kind of government that could well put the interests of the big end of town ahead of the interests of mums and dads in suburban Australia.
Now, Andrew Lee, just on another issue, the federal ALP Vice President has released the report that the party has made into the 2013 election campaign. There's a lot of talk of acrimony and disunity. I guess that's not really a surprise. Any surprises in there at all for you?
I thought it was a warts and all review, and I'm actually really pleased to see Labor having an honest conversation about where we went wrong. We're a party that's the oldest political party in Australia, and we haven't stayed around for 12 decades by being secretive and not learning from our mistakes. And this report, which talks openly and honestly about the mistakes that we made in that electoral campaign, is, I think, a really important step towards rebuilding Labor and making sure that we're competitive in the 2016 election. Australia demands no less.
Now, just briefly, Lyndall, to you, if I may, you said that you've been having a read of this